Hello and welcome back to the Big Dance. Martino Puccio, Matt Lasella, once again. Mike, the Mad Dog DeLuca out there. Not really. Mike, the short attention span DeLuca.
The Flock of Flame.
The Flocka Flame. Okay. Monmouth, Iona tonight. Big game. Not really going to be talking about the game so much. It's more of Monmouth and where they lie in terms of the NCAA tourney. They played really well at a conference. There's no two ways about it. They knocked off Notre Dame when they were a ranked team. They beat USC, Georgetown, UCLA. These are top level schools. It doesn't matter what year it's in. Three of those are some of the biggest names in college basketball history. Two of them for sure, Georgetown, UCLA.
And they almost beat Dayton.
Yeah, and they almost beat the Dayton Flyers.
Who's now ranked.
Yeah.
Rutgers. I mean, Rutgers no good, but
Rutgers is just known for
it's a big. It's
their
a win
coach
in a big
abusing
conference.
players,
right? And they've taken care of business in conference.
Sure.
Better than everybody else has.
I think losing to Canisius is really bad.
Very.
So is losing to Manhattan, who also lost to a D2 school over the preseason. Just have to throw that in there. Also. Winning at Iona here. Winning here was a big deal to end that long home win streak. And Iona's been, when you think about the MAC, it's really been Iona that people have been talking about. Yeah, Manhattan's won the past 2 years, but it's just really
They were never
Iona's,
the regular season favorites.
They were never, and it was a big deal for Monmouth because they got absolutely destroyed in the tournament last year. By Iona when the Gales set the record for most threes in a MAC tournament game history. But anyways, in terms of an at-large bid, I think Monmouth has a really good case because they've just been really consistent. It's really hard no matter what to go undefeated in your conference. In any conference throughout the league, even the Dukes when they have their best teams, the Kentuckys their best teams. Aside from last year, Kentucky went undefeated in the SEC, but it just shows you how difficult it actually is. So they might get some leeway in terms of an at-large bid. But I think when you think about it, and Steve Mazziello said it, when you look at Monmouth, you have to say to yourself, is this one of the top 68 teams in the country? And I think it is.
I think it is. I think that unless they get knocked out in the first round of the MAC on Friday, March 4th of the MAC tournament, unless they lose a first-round game against whoever it is, Niagara, Canisius, Marist, Quinnipiac, they get an at-large. If they lose that game, I don't know if it's guaranteed.
No, they don't get an at-large if they lose that.
Even if they win out the regular season.
I think the only way they have to win out for me, to what I think for them getting an at-large bid, and it sucks because the conference hasn't won any games in the tournament, so it really ruins their credibility. So it's pretty much you got to win the conference in order to get into the tournament at this point because Manhattan didn't win a game the past 2 years. Manhattan lost to a team with a losing record last year. So
that was,
and the year before that they almost beat Louisville.
They held on with Louisville. They
almost beat the defending champs.
They had the
Iona. We've blown it a couple times. I think the last team to ever win a game from the MAC was Siena. Yeah, I think someone's got to fact check me on it, but I think Siena was the last team. But the only way I can see Monmouth getting an at-large bid without winning the conference is if they win out the regular season and they go to the finals, but lose in the finals for the MAC tournament. That way I do see them getting into the tournament.
Right.
Because they've had a really good out-of-conference, but the fact that the conference doesn't have that great of a reputation can really hurt them, and that's why they really need to win it.
It's gonna be a big difference for next year to have. Oh, it's going to be their schedule.
They're already the class of next year. They're not really losing anyone.
Right. It's mostly the same team.
We'll see where Manhattan lies. You don't even know if Mazziello is going to come back. Doesn't look like it. He hasn't signed a contract extension by now. Kind of see where they stand.
To finally get that big deal.
I think he's taking the big deal. And going,
I think so too. And I would if I were him. That's your stepping stone. That's your stepping stone.
He owed Manhattan. Because they took him back after that whole fiasco. But yeah, also, now stretching out from that and just kind of going into teams that and this is like the big dance now that we're talking about. Certain teams that can or cannot make a big impact come March, and kind of the iffy teams, they can go deep or they get knocked out really early, or teams like Gonzaga and Duke. And the problem I have with Duke is their rotation's short. I don't think their talent is that great. Their defense is pretty bad.
And they're young.
And
Yeah, unfortunately, age always ends up being a factor. But they are a very young team, and you really can't look past it. And Gonzaga, as you mentioned, I haven't seen a whole lot from Gonzaga that really, has swayed me any other way than maybe 2 wins.
Gonzaga is one of those teams that constantly is picked to win the tourney, but they never actually follow through.
Do.
For a lot of people. They're like, watch out for Gonzaga, because Gonzaga.
When you dominate in that conference every year, you're gonna get respect. But is it necessarily warranted? I don't know, because you could beat up on bad teams, and you could have Adam Morrison and all the big names they've had the last 10, 15 years, but it's not. I don't think you're not a power conference school. It's very, very hard to have any success in the tournament, and they've had success, but they're not. They won't win it. They won't win one, maybe ever. Honestly, it's just kind of where the school falls into. All these other,
they probably won't. They probably
can't.
won't.
They can't.
So, anyways, now get that. Also, I forgot to mention. Do you think Monmouth, they get to the tourney? Probably will.
Yes.
They're gonna win a game. I think they can. I think
right
they
now,
can win 2 games max.
I'd say max also. It's really going to depend where they fall, because right now they're a 10 seed playing
10
USC.
It's not bad. And
that's
I
great.
Think they
playing
will
USC,
beat
playing USC, who they've already beaten. They lost to them once, but they've also beaten them once.
Because the more important thing was they lost first, then beat them.
Right.
It wasn't the other way around. It would be a little bit more alarming if they won first and then lost again, because it's kind of like USC figured them out. It was more of Monmouth figured out USC. And then you're going to have to see if USC will make those adjustments. Most likely it won't happen, that they'll play each other, because so much is going to happen in these next couple of weeks. But yeah. So I think that kind of just about does it for Big Dance.
They currently, if the season were to end today, they'd be playing number 7 Cal. I don't know if they beat Cal. I think they beat USC.
That's NBA talent on there. Is that why?
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown and Ivan Rabb, right?
Yeah. This is as of yesterday from Joel and Artie. They're still the 10 seed, like
Mr.
they were.
Bracketology.
Yeah. Well, they're in the south
Spelled with
now.
an I. Okay.
So that's interesting. See, one little change like that can decide if they were to win that game, they'd get the winner of Xavier UAB. So 2 games is very winnable. Because right now that looks like a weak region, with Virginia as a 1 seed, who've had their troubles. Providence and UConn are in there at 8 and 9. You have schools like Arkansas, Little Rock, and Valpo. Valpo could really make a run in that region. But if Monmouth stays, which they're not going to stay in the South region, everything's going to change probably 5-10 more times.
Everything always changes.
Right, but they would be in a very good position to win a couple games if it ended today.
Yep. I think I would have to agree with that. And it's going to, like we said, it's going to be the most difficult.
It's going to be a fun tournament.
Place your money, because you don't know if you're going to win or lose. So that'll wrap that up. The Big Dance. I think it was a pretty good show for the first show we had. Good content.
I'd say so.
Shout out to whoever listened or whoever wanted to bother listening in today. Next week, we should be coming out with a few more stuff. Predictions for conference tournaments is probably where we're going to be looking at. I think we're going to be going towards reviewing 2 college players a week on pro potential, where they lay as prospects and where they might fall in the draft. So that'll do it for me and Matt for the Big Dance. We'll be back on for PMP Sports in 5 minutes. Catch you later.